pleasure to introduce you have you've heard about the past of mathematics, the present of mathematics, Professor Keshavan is a specialist in differential equations. He's been one of the pillars in and Professor Karandikar is the president director of the Chennai Mathematical Institute. He's a specialist in problem financial mathematics and various other.
Oh, okay. So then we have to keep in exchanging?
No, other mic is there.
Should I say that?
Yeah.
You'll be
Yeah,
checking.
yeah.
So the Professor Keshavan will first start the proceedings of this panel discussion.
Good afternoon, and I thank Raghavan and the other organizers for inviting me to be here. It gives me great pleasure to share this table with Rajiv and Balaji. So this, I was told, was meant really for the students who are to be told what are their options for a career in mathematics. Some of things we are going to say. This morning, Professor Dani mentioned the Hindu supplement of the 26th of December 2011. Many of the speakers today have written nice articles in that. Rajiv has written, Siddharth Gadgil. I have also written about this career aspects in that. So people who are interested in that issue can go to the online edition of the Hindu and scroll down and read some of these. So when one teaching research the only option available to us? Today the answer is no. There are several non-academic openings available, and I think Rajiv will tell you about those. So I will do something which is more classical, which I have been doing all my life, of course, namely about the openings in academia. So first of all, we assume that you are going to opt for an academic career, that is teaching and research, because you are to some extent passionately interested in mathematics. Because this means a commitment of nearly 30, 40 years of your life to do reasonably productive work to have a successful career. And in your hands are the future generations of mathematicians India is going to produce. And therefore, you have to be primarily interested in the subject so that you can infect them with your enthusiasm. When we were students, we did not have so many fora for guidance, either technical lectures like what you've been hearing today, so many summer schools, whatnot. On the other hand, we did have very devoted teachers who, in their small way, encouraged us to take up this discipline. And today it's somewhat the reverse, unfortunately. I mean, there are so many avenues where you can learn a lot of mathematics, but I find that especially in the colleges and so on, the teaching is not I've been evaluating the NBHM question papers at various levels for several years now, and especially in Tamil Nadu, it's quite depressing the way it's going. So it's so you have to really like the subject, otherwise I don't think one should really get into research or teaching, because then it becomes a vicious circle. If you are not interested but you do it because for some reason you have to do it, and then you will not be inspiring your students either, and this will propagate. But why an academic career? What are the advantages of it? So first of all, you get to work on problems of your choice. So there's a lot of job satisfaction. There are no rigid deadlines as long as you are reasonably productive. The quality of life is much better. You are not tied down to your office or your computer all the day and so on. You can enjoy this thing. There are a lot of research collaborations with people all over the world. So there's a lot of opportunity to travel, see places, see different cultures, learn much more. And of course, much of these institutions are publicly funded, and therefore there's a strong job security in all this. There is downside is the gestation period is somewhat long. So after school you have to do a master's, takes 5 years, and then there is the research which takes another 4 to 6 years, and to get a reasonable job you need at least a postdoctoral experience of 2 to 3 years. So more or less you are ready for your first job around the age of 30 or so. On the other hand, in non-academic lines, of course, to be a mathematician, even there you need a PhD. The differences are that challenges are different, because the problems are posed to you by non-mathematicians and you have to formulate it in mathematical language, and the problems are given to you, you don't get to really choose them, and you may have to have some deadlines for solving them. The other thing is the question of remuneration. So they always say that private or other things pay much better, but with the 6th pay commission and so on, it's quite generous now, and very young faculty now have all the creature comforts, and so there's nothing to sniff at a career in teaching. In India, we have two kinds of academic institutions, those which are purely research institutions and those devoted to research and teaching. I don't know if really there's a pure research institution elsewhere in the world, because everywhere there is considerable amount of teaching involved in research. Yeah, that's here the institutions are like the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Institute of Mathematical Sciences, this one, and the Harish Chandra Research Institute. In some ways, I think some teaching is always good, because one can't always be doing research or generating fresh ideas all the time. There are bound to be flat periods, and so if you should not be depressed, or teaching is always a good outlet. And it also keeps you on your feet, and being in contact with young minds, it rejuvenates you, and it also can act as an impetus to get new ideas. So people should, even in pure research institutes, should engage in teaching as much as possible to whatever opportunities present themselves. Research and teaching, there are several nice institutes in India. The Indians of Science and the Indian Statistical Institutes are the finest long-standing examples of first-rate research combined with teaching from the undergraduate level upwards. Modeled on this are the new ICERs at Mohali, Bhopal, Trivandrum, Calcutta and Pune, which the government has started. and hopes that they will also be institutes of the same kind. And the Department of Atomic Energy has also started an institute at Bhubaneswar called the National Institute of Science Education and Research. So, all of these are devoted to pure science and undergraduate training and research. In this line, I must mention the Chennai Mathematical Institute, of which Rajiv is the director, Balaji is a faculty member, and I have been deputy director of it for some time. This is a forerunner of these ICERs in some way. It was started on the premise that good teaching and good research go hand in hand, and its success has been there for all to see. After this, there are several universities in India. These are governed by the UGC norms, and I won't be saying much about that, but there are a lot of career openings there, but probably hiring processes are not that clear, and often there are probably local politics, political pressures may play some role in these. But nevertheless, plenty of vacancies in all these institutions. They are all crying for faculty. The IITs, I forgot, that's another important center for teaching and research. And the ICERs, NICER, etc., they are all young institutions, so they are all looking for faculty. So there are plenty of openings in India, and unlike other countries which are now plagued with recession and so on, here I think the job position is pretty good. In addition, the Department of Science and Technology has brought in some programs like Inspire faculty, the Ramanujan Fellowship, where young postdocs can be hired at very attractive salaries by various institutions till they have a regular job. And I think the NBHM is also going to bring out such a scheme. So there are plenty of openings now for in academia. So maybe now I'll ask Rajiv to talk about.
Yeah. So, as Professor Kesavan started, that traditionally the thinking had been that if you are studying mathematics, teaching is the only option. That has been the traditional thought. And as he also pointed out, today that's much better as an option than what it was maybe some years ago. Nonetheless, not everybody who starts with the intention of going for research likes it. There could be halfway through either some problem you are working on is not coming to an end and you get delayed, or you lose interest and you have, you think that maybe you should explore other options. So, going back 20 years, for such people there was very little else they could do. Once you have started on a research path, you have put in some years, you are stuck. So today, the scenario is very different. Whether you have started on a research path and then want to change, or after masters itself you want to change, there are many openings in the industry. But these are openings in what I would broadly call mathematical sciences, which include statistics, optimization, computing skills, all together. If you cannot say that my interest is in, say, group theory, and I will only look at an industry which wants to apply group theory. Somebody should pose a problem in terms of group theory to me, and I will solve that. Then it will never happen. Okay? So, for jobs outside of academia, one has to treat our training in mathematics as a generic training, a training for analytical thought, and understand a given problem, and whether you have studied what mathematics is required to do that or not, at least you will be able to figure out what area it falls in, and generally what kind of techniques may be involved in solving it. And given the training one has had, one should be able to pick up the required background even if one doesn't have it. Okay? If one keeps this as a attitude, then there are lots of jobs. Primarily right now the jobs can be classified in, one is government sector. Government sector, the biggest job requirement for people with maths background is in cryptology, DRDO. If we have sufficiently qualified people with mathematical background who want to do cryptography, there are large number of jobs. The Department of Space and then DAE also and BRC, they also have always wanted people who want to do not necessarily research in maths but are willing to interact with the end user group and look at their problems. So these are kind of the scientific establishment. Some of these have been there for years and somehow the handshake has never been there. Mathematicians have gone on to do their own things and these groups have kept on saying that they don't get enough mathematicians to do what is needed. Over the years, what other aspect which has changed is industry in a generic sense is interested in hiring people with analytical training, to put it in a very generic sense. Currently, most of these jobs are in some way or the other related with economics and finance sector. Either directly or indirectly. Indirectly in the sense you are hired by some consulting agency which is doing a job for some other economic entity or finance entity, banking, insurance and so on and so forth. So, while they prefer people with statistics, having had some training in statistics, even people who are in pure maths training but who have shown open mind that what is there, I can always pick it up. There would be jobs for them. So as I'm saying again and again that it should not be, if you have an open mind and say that your training is general mathematics and you are willing to be able to take up any area and interact with end users and try to solve their problems, then there are jobs. The optimization is the other area. Almost every industry they are wanting to hire a mathematician so as to either reduce costs or increase profits. Okay? So it's in a very generic sense it is obviously an optimization problem. So whether you want to optimize the whole operation or they optimize one particular part of the operation, and there eventually it may end up being a very large scale linear programming problem or some kind of an integer programming problem and so on and so forth. Now one doesn't have to have done research in these areas in order to apply them. One could have done research in any area of mathematics and still talk to a user agency and understand that eventually what they need just comes down to a linear programming problem and formulate it properly, define their make an interface between their end user problem and a linear programming problem, and then you may have a ready-made software available to solve that linear programming problem. But the handshake is where you would come in understanding, talking to the end user and understanding the same, what they want and translating it into a math problem. If you can solve it good, otherwise you may find someone else who works in that area, you can talk to them and try to get a solution. So, one other advice which I generally give to students who are want to keep the possibility of a job other than academics open. Since most of the jobs are in economics, finance sector, in your free time it may do you good to just pick up some basic terminology of the relevant domain, so economics, finance. So just pick up from your own university BA economics program, first papers in micro and macro, or look at internet and various universities put this up, and you read it not as you don't have to write an exam, so read it as a leisurely reading, trying to get familiar with terminology. Because that is a must, because if in any application area you want to talk to the end users, you should be able to communicate, and they would expect that you have some basic understanding of what they are talking about. Otherwise, there would be a mismatch. They will tell you, and you will come out that you have no clue what they are talking about and how to formulate their problem. So, now as far as specifics of what agencies or what entities are going to employ people, these are financial services, some of them doing financial services for Indian sector and many of them doing it for the global economy. So all the bigwigs like Citibank or Bank of America, HSBC, each of them have their own groups which are dealing with areas where mathematics interplays there, and they all have jobs in these areas. Global consulting firms also are increasingly looking for people with analytical training. Not all jobs will be like that because one of the difficulties is traditionally, I don't know why this is so, but traditionally students who take to mathematics are also very shy and not very outgoing. And these are aspects, I don't know if one feeds on the other or what, but sorry? No, it doesn't. No, that's not a very fair statement, Anilesh, because I'll draw an analogy. I mean, let's say I go to give a talk at a college, BSc students or MSc students, and just as an experiment I do this, I'll ask a question which I know that most of them should be able to answer, okay? And yet when I ask the question, the faces look blank, nobody is offering to answer the question. If I point out specifically, they may answer. But on the, if you contrast it with the management school, whether they know the answer or not, they all would like to portray that they know the answer and would like to answer. Well, there is a difference between a lie and ignorance. Okay, the two are not equal. Telling a lie means you know it to be wrong and you are saying it. Ignorance will mean you actually believe it to be so. So there is a difference. So now the but industry needs the latter, unfortunately. Okay, it would be best if they know it and they can convince someone else. Okay? You see, if you are convinced 99%, but because of your 1% doubt, you are not going to open your mouth, then the guy with a 10% knowledge but 90% overconfidence is going to steal the show. We need to change. Yeah. Okay. So we are on the same page there.
We have to make my mathematics also a little bit imprecise.
Sorry.
We have to make our mathematics also a little bit imprecise.
No.
They can grow.
No.
Yes. Statistics is imprecise. Statistics is much more smarter than mathematics.
Well.
So, have I opened the panel for discussion?
Yeah.
As the chair, therefore,
I just wanted one addition to, you spoke about optimization.
Yeah.
So that was mainly management oriented, kind of the linear programming, etc. you were saying.
Yeah.
There's another very nice area of optimization, which is a beautiful interaction between engineering, geometry, partial differential equations and analysis, called shape optimization, which is needed, say, from anything you want to design airplanes or cars and so on. There's a lot of interest now in engineering circles for the people who do this, even creation of smart materials and such things. So this requires a lot of PDE, analysis and geometry. They combine, and it's a very practically applicable subject. A lot of
Okay, so the audience has heard wise discussions on the governmental aspects as well as the private aspects of having a lucrative life in pursuit of mathematics. So once now the panel is open for discussion.
Let me just add one more thing. That the two need not be necessarily disjoint. One could, most institutes today have very progressive policies about consulting. You could take up a faculty position and parallelly talk to some end user groups and do meaningful work for them and supplement your salary. Different institutions have different rules in what percentages you can share, etc., etc. But all I'm saying is that the two need not be disjoint. And just like Professor Keswan said that a pure research job, there could be flat periods and you may not feel very good about yourself if you have not done something. Likewise, in addition to teaching, this could be another aspect. And once again, one could be doing research in very esoteric area and yet talk to industry and on very practical matters and give them advice. So the two need not necessarily be disjoint. Yeah.
Before I open the panel, this audience for asking questions, perhaps you all ought to have mentioned maybe that since some of them are bachelor students also, whether there are good courses which take you towards the industrial direction and such things.
Are there bachelor students here?
I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
just asking.
I don't know.
Yes, they are supposed to be PhD, third year MSc.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
So of course, we have traditionally all our MSc programs which are primarily, I would say, designed to train people to go towards academics. I think IIT Mumbai was the first one which tried to have a program which was slightly different, which is, I forget what it is called, but they teach a combination of statistics and computer programming and so on, applied statistics. At CMI also we have a program which is called MSc Applications of Mathematics, where along with mathematics, some statistics, some computing and relevant backgrounds, so economics, finance, we teach. So that these are ideally tailor-made for a industry job. Of course, they may want to not take it up and pursue research in the interface of economics and math or math finance or something like that. But the program is tailored for people who would like to take up industry jobs, the MSc program.
So now it's for the audience to ask questions. Anilesh is already, I think, contemplating questions perhaps.
Yeah.
Raghavan. So
Many students here are not use most mode about relevant for post PhD and your education. But there are many students here who are probably going to do a master's program. So while you answer the question about applied courses,
for pure, perhaps you can also.
maybe you should just not work MSc on possibilities for masters or integrated PhD courses.
But that they will know.
Just to give an idea, perhaps some.
Yeah, I guess Indian Institute of Science has an integrated master's and PhD program, and so does the IMSC. At
No, IMSc
has only a PhD program.
Yeah.
Okay. So IMSc has only a PhD program, and IISc, is it called only PhD or is it called integrated master's and PhD?
And
It's
they also
integrated.
have a 4-year.
Yeah. At CMI also we have, of course, post MSc PhD most institutes have. At CMI we have a master's and then a PhD. We don't call it integrated. You are admitted to master's and then subsequently you could be taken up for PhD.
IITs also have masters.
Yeah, so the traditional master's program, all these institutes and universities have, and PhD programs, of course.
And now IASC has started a 4-year
Undergraduate
BS program, which can go on to PhD after that. Okay, so
And PhD programs, I guess most institutions have.
Yeah, PhD programs, all these TIFR, IMSc or CMI, ICERS, IISc, ISI, all these have PhD programs, and also various university departments also have possibilities of PhD students joining. There is a test which is called UGC CSIR NET exam, which you have to pass, and that gives you fellowship, which you can join any of these research institutes or at a university. And the NET exam is actually at a BSc and MSc combination of the two. It is just basic analysis and algebra and none of the special topics. It used to be. So you may hear, those who are students may hear from people who have done it 10 years ago that, oh, you have all these special papers, you have to study for a NET exam. So all I would say is you look at the current syllabus. It has been revised drastically last 3 years ago, and it is now on very core of mathematics, just basic analysis and algebra. So
the NET is also compulsory if you want to go as a lecturer, right?
as a teaching position in without a PhD or even with a PhD in some of the universities. Yeah.
Is there a place where people can see websites of various institutions which organize programs like this?
I think each institute has a separate website, but I don't know if there is one combined one.
Yeah, if there is a consolidated page to help students, I think, to be aware of what exists.
In terms of, I think Jugal Verma has a fairly, is in control of the advanced instructional schools, which are post MSc level training for. But that's one aspect of the thing. Yeah. What you're asking is maybe workshops, conferences, activities.
No, academic programs, these MScs and PhD programs.
Oh,
and
that is
institutions, that way. Yeah.
What we want is essentially at least the tabulation of all the possible institutes and their webmail address, so that one would know what are the possible institutes and then go
What
to
they
that.
offer.
Then you can go to their webpage and then see what they are offering. So that the students should have a complete understanding of what's going on.
If there are interest one, maybe we shall give a partner should get together and organize something like that.
Why are you excluding yourself?
I'm in no position of power.
Okay. So more questions. So that's a very good
No, but
suggestion.
yeah, we should.
So a single menu, in some sense. NBHM or
Yeah, maybe NBHM.
maybe NBHM should have a.
UGC lists all the universities and there is programs associated. But that will be too broad for developers. So NBHM would be only ideal.
So Dani is here, so Balu is here.
Balu is the chairman.
So I guess NBHM is here. So
I think Kesavan is also a member.
Yeah,
right?
I
Yeah.
know.
So there are many members of
The
NBHM.
Chancellor is a member of NBHM.
yeah, more specific questions on future.
Okay, I will ask, going by Anilesh's statement, so what is required is a kind of a training in how to lie to mathematicians. So, in relation to that, do you think politicians would be interested in mathematicians?
I think in only.
Maybe it's
in a
better
very
they are not.
marginally. I don't think in any substantive way. But industry certainly is interested. And again, as I said in answer to Anilesh, I mean, lie is taking it to a large extreme. And
Maybe he's asking about psephology.
Psephology, again, as a career, I won't recommend it to anyone. Though somebody could take it up, but I won't recommend it as a career. Because there is not enough in that to do. Yeah. It could be one of the side interests in addition to whatever one is doing, but not as a full-time.
Sometime back, you had a panel discussion here on private.
Yeah, that was the women's Indian
Yeah.
women
So
mathematicians.
what was recommended there? Was there any major conclusion or something?
I don't know if we had any conclusion. No.
We have asked them for
More questions.
How
Parth.
does industry express its interest for mathematicians? So where do they advertise that I need 5 mathematicians doing something?
Well, yeah.
They probably don't.
They don't. They don't advertise in newspapers, for example. One is through campus interviews. Yeah, but I think no, that it is through word of mouth now. So people who are interested.
How does a small college student who is interested in maths or a university student who is interested in maths or its applied aspects, so how does he join?
I really don't have a concrete answer, but these days with all these websites like Naukri.com and whatnot, they're equivalents. Okay, so a lot of recruitment takes place through that. Okay, so in that one has to apply, upload your CV, and as Anilesh may say, lie about it, or I would say that you give your outlook that you have done this, but you have an open mind and you can do what it takes for a job. Okay. With such a thing, you put up a CV on these job websites. I think that is because these days private industry doesn't advertise in papers. They would simply go to one of these websites and say, these are our requirements. You shortlist 1,000. If there are 100 positions, there is 1,000 CVs which match these profiles and send it to us. Okay. And in that, they don't really look at whether you have a formal degree or this or that. So you list your degrees, you list whatever you have read. So if taking up my suggestion, if you have read or followed microeconomics and macroeconomics, you list that in your CV.
But do they make their requirements public? I can see what are the requirements.
No, they are not required to, you see. So they will, the industry will simply go to either Naukri or one of, even they will, there are companies which make a living out of this. There are people who are HR consultants, okay. So their job is to find people and suggest them to the company. So the thing to do is to put up your CV and put it with any of these job websites. I think that is the only answer I can give.
This is quite different from the Wall Street, perhaps, where jobs are publicly known that there are a certain set of jobs available for the mathematical.
I really don't know how Wall Street operates.
I have a question to Balu.
Yes. God, who is
This
he?
panel,
Do you support a campus interview here?
Sorry?
Do you support a campus interview here in IMS?
Would I support the campus in
interview,
I
a
said
campus
you
interview
take a campus interview
for PhD students to go to the market, according to.
Yeah.
But how many of our students are interested in going to industries?
No, we are forcing them. Maybe some of them.
We force them to go to industry.
No.
We used to give them, it's good to give them options. That's what we are discussing all about, right? And if we facilitate with a campus interview, there's nothing wrong in it. I don't see anything wrong in it.
But hypothetically,
Anilesh, let me answer one before Balu answers that question. That for campus interview, unless you are able to offer a sufficient number of students, nobody is going to come to interview. Okay?
No, we can accumulate from neighboring institutes. We are not only one, we are many institutes like us, very small institutes. We can accumulate all the students here. There's a CMI, ISC, ISI. Together we can have a.
No, let me say that campus interviews for PhD students, that market in India just doesn't exist. Okay, not even in ISI. When they come to ISI, they come to recruit master's students, not PhD students. Okay, master's students. PhD students, because the numbers are small, 2, 3, 4 maximum.
No, then we can be little bit adventurous also in terms of recruiting the student. We are often scared to take a student who is in borderline. We can also try those students, PhD program. If we see at the end of 1 year, they're not really good to be here, we are continuing this career. We can really, if we have an outlet, and if it's like, we have the credibility like I said, and these guys will get a good job. I don't see anything wrong with it.
No, but for that you have to throw, while forcing them out of your program, you have to give them something in hand as a certificate. Otherwise, that will not be worth it.
Those are not motivated enough after a year of our course. We have to acquire that credibility also. Yeah, we will.
So,
Once they are
this
here
is-
1 year, they will be.
as the chair of this,
I can start a long plan.
as the chairman for this particular session, I think we are getting completely diverted into a. Anyway, I am the chair. So,
So we are
for
talking
the
about, but we are not giving the facilities beyond the guy to choose whether they want to continue research or they want to.
no, that is about the specific institutions, specific problems. We are talking about general issues about future prospects in mathematics.
IMSc or the similar institute. IIT doesn't discuss all this. They have a very,
No, so the specific suggestion that you're making is that
Not for PhD students, even at IITs, it is for their BTech students. It is not for PhD students.
IIT has a campus interview and the students.
For BTech students, not for PhD students.
Even for PhD student can take part. I say, Calcutta, for example, in PhD student, I know they take part in the campus interview. And
Based on their master's degree.
yeah, sure.
Based on their master's degree.
Sure, sir.
okay, so maybe you should.
Why not?
The director is completely non-committal on
No,
this issue,
we
so we will
also-
continue to have.
We have some IIT faculty here.
Yeah.
Maybe they should say
Yes,
something.
IIT faculty, I can see a few of them there. Professor Kulkarni, the chairman of the math department, is there. He can, if he has some suggestions.
You have one
you would
on
like to give them some
one applied
directions.
computational math or something, right? One program. How does it interact with the industry? And so?
We have a program, MTech in Industrial Mathematics and Computing Techniques. And those students, as well as our MSc Mathematics students, do appear on these practice interviews. And quite a few of them get selected also in many industries.
I didn't hear.
See, there is an MTech, he says.
Yeah.
MTech and MSc students, for them there is a campus interview.
Okay.
Yeah, and they do get selected. Yeah.
To go to the industry.
Even students also take part in the
Sure, of course.
Yeah, Nilesh, but the point is that the primarily industry is going to come for the large mass of MSc, MTech students.
I agree, but it's also true that some of the industry they look for a very special people. They don't look for 100 people, they look 1 or 2 people. We can open the opportunity. I don't see anything wrong.
No, there's nothing
No,
wrong.
but-
Perfectly all right.
But that I'm sure you will be happy to.
If somebody specifically wants, some industrial group specifically wants to come to Mad Science to interview its PhD students working in non-committed to geometry, algebraic for the industry.
Cryptography. You will allow, right?
I don't think the director has any specific problems in sending such people to the industry.
Okay, can I say something?
Yes, please.
The question of they take students from mathematics to industries, this has been one question which we have been discussing at least for the last 10-15 years, probably even earlier than that one, Professor Narasimhan talked to me on that a few years back. And some things have not progressed much. Things have not progressed much essentially because, you see, industry has a certain requirement and the mathematician has a certain capabilities. And in theory, actually, these capabilities are good enough to satisfy their requirements. But however, there is a communication gap. The language which the industry speaks and the language which the mathematician speaks, therefore, they don't understand each other. Therefore, it essentially needs an interpreter to just understand what the industry wants and then explain to the mathematician, and the mathematician can solve the problem, and then this interpreter now puts it in the industry. This is a long-drawn process, and no industry is really interested. And most of the time, of course, they are able to buy ready-made solutions from abroad because there are other industries which are in a slightly advanced level in the same area. And those industries have already solved the problem, and therefore they find it rather easy to just buy whatever solutions that they have obtained rather than trying all these ones. And the only way this can be done, you see, theoretically it should be really possible for a faculty member or even a bright student to enter into a consultancy program with the industry and solve their problem and continue what he is doing. But as I told you, because of this communication problem, this problem could not be solved, and therefore the only way which one could do essentially is this mathematician to join the industry so that he can understand the intricacy, therefore he will understand the language, and then he will be able to solve this problem. And that way many industries do ask for mathematicians. But these industries or organizations which do ask for a mathematician so far turns out to be somewhat government organizations like the Department of Atomic Energy or ISRO or CAG or the things as we are telling about the cryptology, things like that, and not industries which are in the manufacturing side also. Now, this problem some have to be broken. To start with, the industries should understand, the industries should realize that there is a certain advantage in talking to the mathematicians. And so far they have not understood that there is an advantage at all. They always feel that they can buy the solutions. But then how do they buy the solution? They buy the solutions from an industry which is already well established abroad. And how did they get the solution? They got the solution essentially to discussing with the mathematicians. And therefore, it is not the question of the mathematicians not talking about the industries, but the question of such a thing not taking root in India. It has taken place elsewhere. Therefore, what is now needed is some sort of a conference, some sort of a meeting place for the industries and for
for the mathematicians, and somebody should somehow therefore make it possible for the industries to understand that there has been a real similar things that have happened abroad and that has helped the industries, in which case the industries would come forward to it. And let me say that on behalf of the National Center for Mathematics, we are planning some such meeting probably within the next 1 year of having a few mathematicians from abroad who have really done this consulting for certain industries, and therefore what was the problem which was given to them and what was the consulting that has been done and how that it has really helped the industries. Therefore, they would give their personal anecdote of how their presence have been useful to that industry. And then we plan to invite many industrials also, or people who are working in industries who may need it also for such a meeting, so that they would know that similar things are happening elsewhere, and they should also then probably try to do what is happening elsewhere. And the mathematicians, exactly as Professor Rajiv was pointing out, should also be able to write in their CV of where their expertise is and what sort of industries they would be able to help and so on. And hopefully, now that this awakening has come, that there has to be an industry mathematicians cooperation, this idea has come. Hopefully, we would be taking action on that. And the MCM plans to take the first step in arranging one such a conference very soon, and hopefully that will follow.
There's a master's program at Kaiserslautern, Germany, which is industrial mathematics. I mean, it's a master's program where they are trained to solve problems from industry, and so that's one such program which exists now for several years, I think. There's a task force for the applications of math. There are some members here, so maybe they have something to say.
You want to say something about that? I mean, Professor Balasubramaniam, you said something about this National Center for Mathematics.
Yes.
This is coming from this Planning Commission activity?
This is the NBHS.
Oh, I see. But there was another thing which was planned in some.
About that?
Yeah. So. So there was a what is it called, brainstorming session where the brains were stormed to answer this specific question that you were addressing about what he spoke about, creating a bridge or a cooperation between the industry and mathematicians. Yeah, some more questions from Anish.
And 20 years back when I joined RSI, there was no competition, and it was I think one of the next year Bimal Roy joined, and some of our seniors, and I think I was also there, pursued to have virtual campus interview. And director of RSI was very apprehensive. It's not new, industries are not interested about all this, but somehow Bimal Roy could convince those days, at least the student, that we can prove also that we can work for a industry. So it really turned out the first year it was somewhat not that good, but I think next year onward it was really good. And most of my class, we are 17 students, I think 28 together. Only 6 of us now in academic, the rest are in industry. And so what Balu is saying, I don't believe in those kind of meeting. I think but what you think, you really need some initiative and inviting them to come and face this. First time we may fail, next time we may succeed.
Okay, so now that it has been
By the way, the next ICM, there will be, I think, a meeting where a lot of industry people from all over the world will be invited to Seoul, and they'll be there just before the ICM starts, and given opportunity to interact with all these.
Can you please stand up? I'm not able to hear you also. So I think that.
Can you hear me now?
Can everybody hear him? Okay. I was not able to hear you.
What about now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the issue seems to be rather more complicated than Anil seems to believe it. It's not just that some industry has to come and I have also been part of a lot of campus interviews when I was in process. I have interviewed lots of mathematicians and rejected them. But it's just that as Paul was saying, when I was in the industry, I think even Rajima was in the industry, so he has not voiced any comments about his time in great software. I was there in Bangalore at the time. So, the language you speak when we were in the industry is quite different. There are no connections. Not there. You can actually know exactly what we do. A campus interview doesn't really solve the thing. Exactly, you should prepare the industry to know what they need to come at. I went there, I just spent a couple of years studying the language for everything in this thing. So it's not only the word of truth, it's also writing on
No, maybe perhaps what Professor Balasubramanian is saying, and that there is a role of an intermediary also.
There was a supply of students. You are missing the point. Here there is no supply for the industry to come.
Maybe. Are there other? So. Yes. I think it's, if people don't have any further questions on this matter, and if they have got a good perspective, I think we should close this panel discussion.
Not panel discussion, this topic, if there were other questions. You misunderstood him.
I thought it was.
No.
Okay, any further questions on a different issue? Yes, that's why I've been asking. I look at them all the time and ask. So you should freely ask. As you can see, there's a lot of freedom here. Please, free. They have a lot of expertise. They'll be able to advise you on many interesting things. So ask questions freely. I mean, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Please, yes.
So you say that is a
Can she have a mic? No, we won't hear it clearly, so that. Tamil la solunga. Mic la solunga, mic la.
நான் வந்து ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இயர் எம்எஸ்சி பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். ஸோ இப்போ எனக்கு வந்து ஸ்பேஸ்ல இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்கு. இப்போ வந்து நான் ஏன்னா நான் மேத்தமெட்டிக்ஸ் படிச்சிருக்கேன்.
I see.
எனக்கு ஸ்பேஸ் பத்தி எதுவுமே என்ன சொல்றது ஸ்பேஸை எப்படி என்ன பண்ணுவோம் அப்படிங்கிறது எனக்கு அந்த அளவுக்கு அப்ளை மேத்தமெட்டிக்ஸ் நான் படிக்கல.
You mean ISRO-ல சேர்றதுக்கு
நான் என்ன பண்ணுவேன்?
அதுக்கு தகுந்தபடி. That's a very, I don't know.
Well, ISRO itself.
Yeah, let me translate the question. What she's asking is, she's in the first year of masters, but she's interested in joining space research. Okay, she does not know in what manner she should prepare herself to join something like an ISRO organization like that. So, what is the kind of courses that she needs to take, or which is the direction she should go to? So, I thought maybe if they can answer, I don't know whether they
can. Definitely courses like partial differential equations, and so on. Plus, ISRO itself has an institute now in Trivandrum, which is like the ISERS and so on. So they will have master's programs, or
they do have a master's program.
So you should go to the website of that institute and see. ISRO has set up an institute to train scientists and of all kinds, maths, physics, chemistry, and so on, for the to work specifically in their research. And I think once you graduate from there, you are even offered a job in the space research program. So
maybe in the summer you can try and go there as an intern or just correspond with them to express your interest and see how they take it up, because they always keep saying that we don't have enough people who are showing interest. So you write to them.
I believe when we spoke to the people there, the ISRO chairman, he said that there are plenty of jobs available. And so it's just a question of showing interest to go there, discussing with the people, and then automatically they'll be able to advise you on the directions you need.
Write to them. If you don't get response, maybe contact one of us, and we can also on your behalf contact them again. Okay. First you try directly. Yeah.
Most of their requirements will be differential equations based, like control theory, partial differential equations, homogenization, all these kind of topics. These are the but
maybe image processing. Other area is image processing.
Signal processing.
Signal processing as well as image reconstruction and smoothing and so on.
More questions, please. Yeah. So. This is a very large question, and
one of the reasons why I wrote that article in the Hindu was precisely for this purpose. And if you look at it, there's a fairly comprehensive list of things, which both training and job openings and so on. Now, how
maybe perhaps it's a suggestion. The question itself perhaps comes with a suggestion. If I don't mind, I just want to say that the question comes with a suggestion. Perhaps what you are suggesting is that institutions like ours, CMI, IMSC, and IITs and such things should get together to organize, not just through newspapers and some articles, but actually organize regular trips to some of these at least reasonably well-known centers like Trichy, Coimbatore, Madurai in Tamil Nadu, and possibly in other parts of the country, where organize some mini conferences where we advertise it and ask the college teachers and the students to come and attend these lectures, and thereby automatically there is a kind of a communication which is established, and a publicity is done and advertisement is done, and some students might actually become aware of this. I think this is something that we have been contemplating for some time at CMI, a kind of a outreach program as it's called, and it's got a nice nomenclature now. So this kind of thing we want to do, and hopefully, because through this panel discussion, since you have asked this question, maybe people will take it more seriously and
also things like education plus we should exploit a little better.
Yeah, maybe that's so that
because they
that's
will read it. I'm sure.
More questions. People from somebody here. Yes, please. Yes. Okay, so
such exposure to the students. Yeah. Those who are those who are selecting mathematics, and MSc mathematics is very few, and those who are joining in colleges in MSc mathematics is very few. We want something good.
Yeah, want to ask, when did you see this data about 0% from South? I'm curious.
0% in the sense, if you see in Karnataka that SLET exam, that is 0%. 4,906 persons attended that exam. There is 0% of persons cleared it. And if you see the
SLET, that is the Karnataka state government exam.
yeah.
Okay.
And also in Tamil Nadu also, if you see, there is no one is passed.
No,
You see
I may add that.
before you come across.
I may add that nationwide in the NET exam in mathematics, very few students qualify, which is true.
If you see from North India, lot of persons are clearing it.
No, I don't see this more as a north-south divide. I think it's a
We
overall.
want more quality. We are very much interested
I agree.
in IIT and everything.
So
But
is it-
we don't have such qualities and we don't have how to
Can
clear and all.
I try to interpret your question? I don't. Perhaps are you trying to comment about the quality of math education that's been given in the South?
So,
Is it a
no,
reflection of
I'm
that
not
state?
commenting about that, but if you come in Chennai, she told no, IIMSC and Institute of Mathematics and IIT, in such institutes and all, the quality is very nice. But if you come across the
Colleges.
qualities, we are not getting such quality in
Yeah.
mathematics.
So that's what you're trying to say. So that's exactly I was trying to interpret your question, Steve.
One-
That the quality of college education, as far as mathematics goes in the South, you feel is not up to the mark for people to clear the NET exams. That's what it's
I
saying.
think one important reason is that these national exams concentrate more on solving problems, not proving a theorem or giving a proof or something like that. And that training seems to be severely lacking in colleges in Tamil Nadu and so on. I mean, this
The
I've
NET
observed
exam-
also in the NBHM examinations. You have to learn to apply the theorems you learn to solve problems. Now, to what extent your teachers do that is not clear to us. Now, for instance, the NBHM has been now using the habit of giving back the question paper to the students and it's not taken away from them, and the questions are on the web for several years now. The hope for this was that the students will go back to their teachers and say, look, I did an MSc in this college, but I have not been able to take this test. I didn't know how to solve these questions. So I think you students should go back and take these questions back to their teachers and say, why is it that we are not able to solve it? I mean, maybe they themselves should be able to, whether they teach you that skill or not, I don't know, and I think they don't. This is my suspicion. What are your question papers like?
We are having theorems.
Yeah. So the NET exam or NBHM exam, you
You-
will not get a state and true kind of a question, you see.
Sir, our education system automatically
So கொஞ்சம்
She wanted to say
கொஞ்சம்
something.
எலாபரேட்டாக சொல்லுங்க என்ன சொல்வாங்க?
education system will
ஓகே ஸோ நீங்களும் என்ன சொல்ல பார்க்குறீங்கன்னா சிஸ்டமிக் தெர் இஸ் அ ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்குங்கிறீங்க டீச்சிங்கில் குவாலிட்டி ஆஃப் மேத்மெட்டிக்ஸ் எப்படி நடத்துகிறாங்க அது சரியா. ஸோ வாட் ஷி இஸ் ஆல்சோ சேயிங் நவ் இஸ் தட் the system, the education system is actually defective. There is a systemic failure in some sense. The teachers have not been doing, according to this person, the teachers are not doing proper justice to the mathematics part in colleges.
He is saying that if a competitive examinations are supposed to be one kind of exam,
Yes.
okay, then their own exam should be of the same type so that they would be able to train.
It is equal.
They have a different type of question paper for passing their MSc and one set of question paper for passing the competitive examination. Then the teachers will be teaching only those type of things which would enable them to pass MSc and would not enable them to pass the competitive examination. And therefore something somewhere has been broken.
So can I, no, there are 2 points to this. That is, one is to change the examination system, but perhaps that alone is not going to address the kind of system.
That would address because if
Then the teachers will
exam
be.
system is also problem solving, then the teachers will be forced to teach that because they have to pass their own students.
Okay, so
Yeah,
perhaps that's
she said so.
yeah.
some 5 students are planning to go to Delhi. It's not possible to every student to move to Delhi or Hyderabad to prepare for CSI or NET and all. Even we also want few of the girls can't move, they won't allow such things and all. We want to clear, we want to prove ourselves, but we are not getting such chances. Those are getting, they are moving there and then they are proving.
Just one minute. By moving to Delhi or Hyderabad, what chance they will get? There is some coaching.
There is some few of the institutes they are having what the lab we are facing here. No, they are clearing it.
Coaching class.
Classes. Few of the things.
No, but do they get old papers and so on?
Now old papers are supposed to be given.
If they are available, then the students have to try to solve them. If not, go to their own teachers and get it.
We are asking not such coaching centers. We want our mathematics stuff itself. We want good. The teachers, those are you may say if you are not getting result means you go and return it to your staffs and then show it. But what the thing means, the staff, those who are coming out, they are also followed our way. Then where we will go and ask such things.
So she's actually bringing out a vicious circle.
Which I spoke about.
Okay,
to
Siddharth.
start.
One thing to say, I have no idea if it will work or not, but I think the only thing one can try is use the internet to try to massively scale up what is accessible to every college.
Yeah.
Because the conference can reach only a few thousand people. We want to reach several lakhs. I mean, I have no idea how much will be lost in transmission, but I think we only hope to reach every college.
In some sense,
He is producing really high quality material of the sort with a lot of problem solvings with examples, etc.
I think you are very right, and maybe all of us should contribute in our own way to create this. How to consolidate and put it together is another matter.
No, but the point is also it has to be done only once, in the sense that
I agree.
the application cost is zero.
Yeah.
Unlike a lecture which has to be given 100 times. Once, if you have a large bank of, I don't know, solved problems with somebody explaining how they are solved, I think the scaling possibilities of the internet are enormous.
In fact, last year in the Ramanathan Institute, I have seen students carrying this huge bundle of all previous question papers. They have this objective type, the latest pattern. They have this bundle. And I'm not saying, I don't want to say that again, the problem with the question paper or whatever it is. Students struggle, they write, and then hardly anyone get verified. So, as he said, maybe the methodology, solution methodology, a few of similar type of problems, that may give some idea as to how to tackle a new problem.
but possibly, I mean, I would like to view Siddharth's suggestion from a larger perspective also. Maybe because as she was saying, it's not merely cracking this exam which is their concern, but they believe that,
Learning
the general
maths.
course of math
Problem
itself.
yeah.
So
I
if,
mean that they never are exposed. You see, the teachers also have not been exposed to a course where they were taught to solve problems. This has gone on for generations.
Yeah.
How
That's
to
what.
break this heredity, the unfortunate heredity, on a scale of lakhs or crores. And the only thing I can think of is trying.
so one suggestion could be that courses which are taught, undergrad courses which are taught, for example, in CMI and ISI,
That is part of it.
we could even use that on the internet so that it's available to students for anybody to learn a course taught by these people rather than what is taught maybe in their college.
True, but again, having taken undergrad, having learned things of the internet, I think made for internet things sometimes take less effort and have greater impact.
Okay.
So you made for lectures recorded and put on the internet, they are useful.
I
If
see.
you are thinking differently,
I see. So you are saying a clear,
make it for internet.
make it for internet.
Make it so that students are exposed to solving problems very.
That's a very clear.
I
very
think
good, very good suggestion.
By the way, let me add, the people who are interested in contributing to this could contact me because there is an initiative by UGC to create e-content for master's level programs. And for mathematics, Professor H.P. Dikshit is coordinator for that, and he has been talking to me. So I will also get in touch with you, Siddharth, and few others, because I think you are very right that that is the way where we can scale up. Otherwise, even if we decide to go around giving lectures, we can only have a limited reach.
No, it is a good idea that even NBS
Yeah, yeah.
And thing about internet, it costs approximately 0 rupees.
Professor Dani has something.
It's not exactly new. In fact, it had come up in
it was started during the, at the time of the ICM, there was a project which is about, made up, prepared by
Gadadhar.
which was a part. But later on it became sort of, and even through NHM, we had tried some of this. And though of course in principle we say the cost is zero, etc., in terms of organization it doesn't quite cost zero. And there is a bit of organizational work that needs to be done, which has unfortunately failed at various stages. So it's now
Maybe we should restart it.
we should keep in mind that it does involve something, and I mean there is some bit of commitment on a larger number of people from is what is needed.
Yes.
Needs to be
Well, again, so from this personal perspective, this is at higher levels. I haven't tried anything at next level. But because I wanted to make sort of for preparation for a workshop and for various other reasons, I have just made 10 screencasts, put them on YouTube. It cost me, I think it cost me $12 to buy the software that was needed, zero after that. And I know how much.
No, but he's talking at the larger organization level of organizing a team to function for it and.
Some level, you don't even have to
You
organize.
get people to work and you need to pay them in order to get them.
What do you think is different in volunteer time?
Yeah.
because when the first budget for that was proposed, I was quite surprised that it was going to cost this.
Okay, yeah. This is again has been thought about for a long time, and okay, some of the students are saying that they didn't even know the existence of IUC and CMA and so on and so forth. And how many of you knew the fact that India hosted the International Congress for Mathematics 2 years back? How many of you knew that? Okay. At that particular time, we
I never told one who says, how many of you have a good library in your school?
Not bad.
This number is clearly larger than the other. Okay, Professor
at
Balasubramanian.
that particular time, therefore, I think Professor Keshwan and Krishnamudali wrote a program for DSP for funding. And the total amount of funding which we needed was around 10 crores, and in which various things which we wrote, and around 4 crores for running the ICM, and then they asked only around 2 crores for this program. Okay, and that was written 3 years back, and it so happens that that proposal is still with the DST, which the DST has not made any decision on that particular proposal. But on the other hand, if this is probably the amount of budget that you are talking about from 4 to 5 crores, this is a budget which probably the National Board of Higher Mathematics should be able to give. And therefore, if you can think of a good proposal and write to the National Board for Higher Mathematics, I think we should be able to take care of it.
In fact, Siddharth perhaps is trying to say that what he needs is selfless people. Selfless
I think
people.
the resource constraint, including myself, is the amount of time we are all willing to volunteer to put into this.
You
And
need to
each of us,
give
we
it-
have a limit on it. I think the money cost is not there because if we really want to, we can put it on YouTube. which is-
There I have a slightly different.
But of course, the time that, I mean, I will only put a limited time into
Exactly.
this and the same.
Yeah,
goes
that's
for
why-
others.
that's why
There is
it's-
logistics and coordination.
Yeah, I have a slightly
But
different.
somebody with a good organizational.
So he maybe has
I
some.
have a slightly different view on that.
Yeah.
That if for the sake of students and for the sake of their learning mathematics, and if you plan to spend some of your time, okay, to prepare such things, and I do not see any reason why you should do it free. Okay. Therefore, that part also can be the part of the project. And if you have volunteers, with those things as a part of the project, and definitely, and you write a proposal,